What's up, gang? Mason Chin here, about to do some creative thug notes. Today, we're going to be talking about the forest scene from Nathaniel Hawthorne's romantic classic, The Scarlet Letter. Let's go. Hester Prynne is some woman living in a messed up Boston society where everybody is uptight about everything. One day, her and some dank ass minister, Dims, get it on the force and have a daughter, Pearl. While Hester gets publicly humiliated in front of everybody and that lives in a nasty cabin with their daughter, Dims doesn't confess his sin and doesn't get in any trouble at all. Now that is some romantic injustice. Now, let's fast forward 7 years and the tides have turned. Baby mama Hester has moved on from her sin and her and Pearl are living a pretty happy life. But on the other hand, Dims, poor Dims, now he's withering his entire life away, physically and mentally, because of his guilt, his inside guilt. The difference is that Hester can move on from her sin, while Dims is stuck inside of him. It's rotting away his soul, and he can't live much longer. Man, that's what he gets for cheating on God like that. Okay, now, in this edition of Thug Notes, we're going to focus on the forest scene, and in specific, 3 main characters in it: Pearl, Dims, and Hester. Now, let's start off with Hester. Okay, Pearl and Hester go into the woods to find Dims. Once Hester finds Dims, a couple things happen in the conversation. One, Hester gives up her sin, which is a huge pivotal moment in the story. Hester realizes that the Puritan society doesn't conform her, and her own independent mind is what matters the most, which is huge to the plot. So, Hester tosses that scarlet letter near the brook and tosses her bonnet into the woods with her luxurious hair and her hot body showing off. So, that's a big deal because Hester is actually moving on and transcended the sin that she committed. Moving on though, number 2. Hester and Dim have a little bit of a conversation about some weather, whatever, but then she gets into some real juicy topics. Hester tells Dims that Chillingsworth, the ex-lover of Hester and the doctor of Dims, has low-key been sabotaging Dims' entire life, making the pain that he's been suffering even more than he needs to suffer. And Dims gets pissed. So pissed that he's about to roast Hester for being an evil sinner. But before he can do that, she pulls Dims into her luscious bosom, aka the Scarlet Letter, aka her breast, and he forgives her instantly, which I think is kind of iffy. It's okay, baby girl, you good. But that's besides the point. The point is that Dims commits to being in a relationship with Hester in the forest. So, from that point on, Dims realizes that he doesn't need Puritan society or God to tell him what he wants to do anymore. He's also a free-thinking man, but he can do whatever he likes. It's his life, he can choose the way he wants to live it. And that's a pivotal moment because Dims and Hester now have full control of their minds, and the Puritan society is not condemning them anymore for what they did. Even if they do, it doesn't matter because they don't even care anymore. Let's take a little bit look deeper into Dims. Dims' sin, adultery, is based off an act of love. However, his evil doctor Chill's sin, which was revenge, is actually an evil sin. So, a lot of times you understand that Chillingsworth is the evil character and Dimsworth isn't. And up until this point, Dims believes that he's the evil character. But finally, Dims realizes that Chillingsworth is the real evil sinner out of all 3 of them, and finally bands with Hester, which is great for him because he can give up his sin. That's what matters the most. Okay, now, to understand the symbolism that takes place in the forest scene, you gotta understand Pearl. Now, back when Pearl and Hester were walking to find Dims, Pearl was attracting all sorts of sunlight, while Hester was attracting none. Now, this is symbolic of the Puritan society. Now, on one hand, Pearl, who has yet to be conformed by the Puritan society, is attracting all the sunlight and innocence from that sun rays. But on the other hand, Hester, who has been condemned and pushed around and viewed differently in society by the Puritans, is in the shadows. And that's that juxtaposition between Nathaniel Hawthorne's forest and the Puritan societies. Moving on with Pearl. After Dims and Hester had that conversation about love and what they're gonna do and what's their plan, Hester and Dims decide that it's high time to get Dims acquainted with Pearl a little more. However, when Hester calls Pearl over from the brook to go over to meet Dims, she doesn't respond to her. And that's weird. However, there's a reason behind it. Now, to understand this, you have to understand the Puritan Society's views of this. Now, the Puritan Society sees the brook as a mystical gateway from the real world to this land of sprites and mystical creatures. So, Pearl is on that mystical creature side, while Hester and Dims are on the other. Pearl is looking into that real world from that gateway and sees Hester, but doesn't relate her to her mother, because the entire life that Pearl's lived has only seen Hester with that A and that bonnet and all that ish covering up her real beauty. So once Hester throws off all that ish and shows her real beauty, Pearl doesn't have a connection to the real world, and that's why there's so much trouble with Pearl crossing that brook. This creates crazy conflict between the plot, because the only way Pearl's gonna see her mother is with the Scarlet Letter and all that beauty wrapped up inside of her. So, the problem is that Hester wants to release all that beauty and become an independent individual woman. So, between the two of them, there needs to be a climax most likely to understand which one's gonna win. Pearl seeing her mother all conformed, or Hester being able to open up freely and still have Pearl love her. Who knows what's gonna happen? Hawthorne conveys all of this stuff for a reason. Hawthorne in the forest makes it seem that everything is perfect and nice and everything's spice. However, the Puritan Society sees it all messed up and witchy in there. That juxtaposition really contrasts the way the tone of this book shows. It shows that, in Hawthorne's view, the Puritans are right about everything, just like they're not right about condemning Hester for her sin. That adds to the overall message of the scene. All in all, the forest scene conveys that in the forest, usually good things happen for the right people. Even though in Puritan Society's views, the forest is all messed up and whack. In reality, it's a great place to be all the time. Alright guys, I'm gonna recap all of this and put a bow on it in this week's recap. Okay, Pearl, Dim, and Hester all go into the forest and crazy-ish happens. Pearl has some self-realization that this demonic innocent creature inside of her doesn't really have to be shown depending on how she acts. Hester, on the other hand, realizes that she doesn't need Puritan Society's views changing the way she lives her life. As with Dims, Dims doesn't need Chills or anybody else telling him how to live his life or giving him more pain than he already has. He can accept this pain and move on with it, just like Hester did. For this week's Thug Notes, I'm Mason Shin, word out.